Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
Excited to have you here, Bernice. So tell me about this recovering perfectionism, because I actually do the exact same thing and I've been working on it. I'm getting better. It's sticking a bit.
Yeah, it's a process. It's not going to be easy, but when you want things done a specific way, you don't like to see error. So you try to perfect what you do to make sure everything is perfect and great and lovely, but it doesn't always work out that way. So I have to kind of try to reel back and understand that things happen. You're not perfect. So you just have to do your best and keep moving forward.
Okay, that's great. So where did this realization come from? I understand that you have had past experiences that are now being utilized to help build your future, right? And the futures of others. So where is the realization tied to of the perfectionism to our past experiences? Like, what was your experience finding out this wisdom?
Well, actually, I know my life wasn't perfect, but as I grew up and ended up having children of my own, I tried to intercept the mistakes that they were making because I saw similarity. So I wanted them what I considered like the perfect life. I didn't want them to make my mistakes or mistakes in the world. And that kind of cost me because I was pretty much not pushing, but just analyzing their life in a way that I thought that I could intercept them from, falling on their face or either going down a wrong path or a wrong road. And at that point in my life, I kind of caused a little bit more destruction than I did helping them to cope with things that they was going through. And that realization came when my one and only daughter, I'm a mother of three, a single parent of three, and my one and only daughter attempted suicide.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, that kind of shook me, and it's like, well, she thought I was superwoman. She thought I was perfect. And then by analyzing what she saw me doing and my input of what I saw the mistakes she was making, which I should have stepped back and allowed her to make her own mistakes, caused her to go into a deep depression, and she attempted suicide.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's very courageous on your part to share that. I think, yeah, sometimes, there was this really interesting quote somebody shared with me a long time ago. She mentioned there's a very big difference between compassion and pity, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, when you're pitying somebody for the possibility that they won't be able to handle what they can take on, right?
Yes.
Or like those mistakes. And then you try and fix it for them, it actually becomes a way of disempowering someone instead of empowering them by having them, build their own confidence. And I love that you shared that, because I think it's a very common trait. I love my mother. Did she do that with me sometimes? Yes, she did. I actually had to fly. I remember I wanted to grow, so I flew across the country and
Wow.
and lived in California. Don't get me wrong, I talk to her pretty much every day. I still call her, but she that tendency to want to like do things for me, to protect me and save me, it was actually strangling me, and I didn't it wasn't it didn't empower me to take responsibility in my own life. And it's so beautiful that you came to that realization, and that, like, how is your relationship with your daughter now?
Oh, well, our relationship has actually bloomed. That happened in 2020. Since then, it took about 2 years for our relationship to kind of get back on track where she can understand that I was actually out, trying to help her and not to hurt her. So at that point, she grew older and understand because she started having children of her own. So she can see and relate to exactly what I was attempting to do to save her, to protect her, from the hard, the dangers and hurt of the world. But as of right now, over the last year, our relationship is simply amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We talk about everything, she's in a good place. There's no judgment, she shares, I listen. If she wants me to give my input, I will give my opinion, but by no means I try to push it on her.
Yeah, that is, oh goodness. This is like one of those things where, so I have 8 nieces and 1 nephew from 3 sisters, right? My mom had girls.
Okay.
just had a lot of like, what a girl, the better term for it is assigned feminine at birth, or we're an LGBTQIA plus, alliance here.
Okay.
And essentially growing up, she would do that. She would like, she was like, wait till you have daughters. My youngest sister has 5 daughters, and I laugh.
Wow.
I laugh so hard every time she gets overprotective, and I'm just like, Mom was right.
Yes.
But that is a wonderful thing to see in retrospect. Another thing that I think is also really important is, so there is a big difference between doing something for others, or leading them and actually allowing them to learn and make their mistakes so that they can, you can feel like you're actually delegating now.
Right.
Versus doing it all.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my daughter has 2 daughters. So she's, yes. Exactly.
For those of you who are listening to this podcast, if you see our YouTube video, you can see our eyes, our smiles are like, yeah, that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's incredible. So how does your relationship with your daughter now? Like, I understand this is a very good foreground for your coaching business.
Yes.
Could you tell us how you want your clients to feel at the end of the coaching session? Like, how do you want them to go out into the world after they have a session with you?
Well, I want them to feel empowered because especially with being a mother, sometimes you feel like you're getting beat down because your kid is maybe going down the wrong path. You see it, but you can't actually stop it. But you have to learn to let them know, and for yourself as well, that they're going to make their own mistakes, because if you don't make your own mistakes, you can't learn from your own mistakes. So I want them to be empowered that they actually instill what they did as good standing morals, values into their kid, and they know that eventually that even though they're going to make mistakes, they will actually, it's going to come back to them, and they're going to think about it. It's a lot of reflections going to come back to them, knowing that, hey, I know what I instilled in them, that foundation I set for them, and that eventually they will understand that they can do whatever they put their mind to, but sometimes we have to go down a different path before we actually get back onto the right path. So I just want them to feel empowered that they didn't let their kids down, and we all are going to make our own mistakes. That's just how life works.
That's wonderful. I think so. It's interesting. I've learned that all right, just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, I get anything between 12 to 42 because of how I look. And we don't have to say my age, even though Katie tells us what my age is all the time. But from what I understand about the world, from my years of experience, is your history is actually the fuel to fulfill your greater mission, right?
Yes.
And I love how Bernice is on here to align with that. So could you give us a example of, and of course, a client that probably wouldn't mind, right? You don't even have to say their name.
Right.
Like how they took that background and they flipped it to have like the future that they're starting to have now.
Okay, well, I had a client, well, actually, she spoke to me about briefly her daughter had a similar situation as my daughter, and she was delegating,
Mm.
and she was what I consider myself at that time intruding into her daughter, in my daughter's business. So we was kind of sort of doing the same thing, similar, just trying to protect, being that protector. But she came to a realization that she had to go back and think as a younger self that she also did things that her mom didn't approve of. She also went down some path that her mom didn't approve of. So we kind of rekindled that moment. And then so now she did what I did also, even though her daughter ended up in a little bit more of a drastic situation than my daughter. But she allowed her daughter to actually fall on her face, what I consider, because she pulled away from her because she was giving because she thought by giving her that would make it better. But instead it was making it worse because it was more like, yes, it was more like her daughter's like, well, if I cry out this way or I complain about not having this, mom gonna give it to me. So I think that life was so much easier. Just it's gonna hand it to you. Life doesn't hand you anything. You actually have to work for it. So then when she pulled away from it, she realized that, hey, when my mom started pulling away from me for certain things that I went and spent, for example, she said, Mom, I went and spent my rent money one day. All of it. I went out, I splurged, I did everything with my friends, thinking that my mom was going to come back and repay me for the money that I spent. She said her mom did not. So she ended up having to go work extra hours to make up that money that she spent with her friends. So then she kind of looked at things like that and realized that, hey, she said from that point on, when she would go out, she knew she had to take care of her responsibilities first before she splurged and did other things with her friends. So she realized at that point she stopped giving handouts to her daughter. She stopped paying for trips that her daughter had already pre-planned because she knew mom was going to come back and save her. So and I was guilty of the same thing. I used to do the same thing with my daughter. I felt that as long as I was keeping her happy and she was doing, and I was providing for her financially, and then I had got her to such a point where that when I didn't do it, she would throw tantrums, or she would try to manipulate me as if I was the bad, the bad parent. And then at that time, so the both of us shared our stories, kind of compared it, showing that we was actually doing the same thing on two different sides of the world, and finding out by both of us deciding to, even though we didn't know that I pulled away from doing my daughter, it's not giving my daughter hands out. She told me that she pulled away from her daughter, and now her daughter is doing so much better, and so is mine. So it kind of worked hand in hand, because sometimes you have to look back at yourself to see, are you causing a problem, or is it something you did back when you was younger, your young self, that maybe is a reflection of what your kid is doing.
Ooh, wow. That's like it's like a family karmic wheel right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. There is a difference between enabling and supporting.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's such a big difference. And
exactly.
yeah, and like still to this day, I think my mother still struggles with that. And don't get me wrong, because she does, I do, like
Right.
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree here.
Right.
But it is really interesting that you say that. So my mom went through a lot of us.
Okay.
And she learned. She had to learn. I think my first three sisters really took the brunt end of the learning curve there.
Yes.
And then she got to me, and then she knew by the time that I was like in high school and college, like, no, you need a job.
Yes.
You like, well, I'll pay for your schooling if need be, if it's something that I think is going to, as long as you go to college, graduate, I'll pay for that if that's necessary. But you like, you got to have a job too if you want certain things. So I remember, I used to work so much in college. Like I remember this one time, I'm just going to share this with you. And I'm not going to lie, because of this, I am pretty indestructible. And I do thank my mom for this. I it was also this part of the summer where I was getting over a boyfriend and I didn't want to think about it. So I remember when I was 19, I had an internship in radio, I had a summer class, and I had a job. For those 3 weeks of the very intensive 4-day-a-week summer class, I remember waking up at 3 a.m. because this is radio, right? So you get to the studio by 5 a.m. to support, right? So I remember I was in Staten Island. I woke up at 3, would somehow be awake and drive to the Staten Island ferry. From the ferry, I would sleep on the ferry for 20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then get to this internship in New York City, Chelsea.
Right.
And then from there, I remember going to Staten Island again, taking the ferry and all that stuff, working at a summer camp for after school programming for like 25 an hour, best job ever. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Wow.
Then from 2 p.m. I would drive to New Jersey for a community college class, so I'd be ahead in school, do my homework at my parents' house, then drive to the community class by 5.
Wow.
And then 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock, then 8 o'clock drive back home to Staten Island, then sleep. Actually, I wouldn't sleep because I was a little wired. I remember looking at my roommates and going, wine? I wasn't 19. I think I was 21. We'll scratch that.
Okay.
I was like, wine? Because I need to sleep and wake up again and do the same thing for another 3 days and then recycle.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie, after those 3 weeks, I felt really empowered. I felt like I could do anything. Would I ever do that again for my health's sake? No. We still want to balance here.
Yes, that was a lot.
Yeah, but it really did. Oh, it was great. I made my bills. I was fed. I had a good like circle of friends and everything, and I was just going for it, and I was enjoying every moment of my life as I was doing this. Would I text and call my mom on the weekends? I would actually sometimes go home, whatever she wanted me to do. And I like paid my bills, I paid my apartment rent, like I got everything done. And after that, I knew I could do it if I needed to, which was important.
Wow. Yes, that was a lot, but that was rewarding, but then it was not good for your health.
Then it was fine. I think it's because like when you're in those years, you just have this spring of, I know I look young. You just have this spring of energy that I don't have now.
Right. Absolutely. That comes with age. You losing some of it, of course.
Right. So then it was fine. Can I sustain that type of life now? No. I know when to take a break, but it is really something when your parent trusts you, right? To make your mistakes, do what you need to do, and come home. It's actually really empowering, that imparting of your parents' trust.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That is so true. That is so true. Because like I said, I have 3 and she's my only daughter, but my oldest is a boy. So, but he does what he's supposed to do. I don't have any, he took a blunt of all of the parenthood, yes. And she was her being a girl is like, you want the only girl as that. So you just want to protect her and doing all that other good stuff just to make sure her life is as smooth as possible. But like
you do what you can. And the lessons that need to be there are so important. I get to be the cool aunt, so I don't have to, I can give them back. But every time I go out with my nieces, like I know I'm like, all right, responsibility as cool aunt is you still kind of have to teach them a little bit and let them fall on
Right.
their face. And then be there for them when they fall on their face. Like I think that's the part that's important more than anything. So I'm curious, do you coach just women or men and women?
Well, mostly, well, I do both, but
Mhm.
all the clients I've had, I would say 90% of them have been women,
Okay.
because a lot of them can resonate with, being a mom and having to deal with certain things. So it's been 90% women, but I do
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always curious. You never know if there's like, partners that are male and they have a kid. Just wondering.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So where are your clients? Now that's a fun question. Do you do digital, like, are they everywhere so that people know when they come to find you, they can
Yeah.
either meet with you digitally? Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah. It's the virtual, digital. No, hey, the pandemic opened the world up to a whole lot of possibilities because everybody now is doing everything, pretty much virtual, digital, that type of thing. So I'm not just set in stone to one particular place. They're everywhere.
Okay. I love that. So, all right, we're gonna get a little more real too. We're gonna
Okay.
dive into this. Okay. So, as a coach, there is a bit of a struggle in, especially now because of the recession.
Yes.
Um, do you find that um, finding clients or having recurring clients, how are you sustaining your income? I know a lot of people out there are very curious of how coaches continue to thrive in this climate.
Well, with me, I'm most of my clients, I'm mostly part-time. And the reason why I say I'm part-time because I have a full-time 9 to 5.
Mm, okay. Okay.
Okay. So everything for me is normally after my regular work schedule. And then
Okay.
sometimes I have some clients that, wants to do the weekends. So that's how I'm able to sustain them. I'm not sure how the client, coaches that's doing it full time because I haven't actually crossed over to that world just yet.
Okay. No
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yes.
cool. So I remember when I started going into coaching and I realized I was like, might need something else,
Yes.
right? Because some people take on a lot of clients, but do you know how that's a lot of energy, and that's something that I've been understanding. So, will I take on more than 5 clients a month? Kind of, yeah. Okay, Bernice gave me the face of like, yeah, it's different. We don't do that, right? That's otherwise we're
Exactly.
going back to the days where I did 8 to 2 a.m. type of thing, like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, But when you're dedicated to something like that as a coach, it is something that's really wonderful. Like you do have the events, you have all that stuff, but there's always like an extra added thing, right? Because you have to build a community. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, and I bet you a bunch of listeners would also love to know this. What are the communities, the entrepreneur communities that you connect to? I know that wonderful Dr. Pamela brought you to us. I'm curious what other areas
Well,
you've connected to.
mostly because this journey for me just started last year, August, actually. So this is like a year for me.
Mm,
So I've been and most of my community is normally authors or entrepreneurs. Um, the like Dr. Pamela. So I've mostly everybody all the entrepreneurs has been mostly like authors as of so far, and those clients usually come through me working with the authors because I have I am also an author, a solo author, and then I have worked with anthologies. I can't keep up with them. I want to say 4 because I have one
woo!
is upcoming. Yeah. So
I
I have
can't keep up
5.
with them. They just keep coming. It's great.
So it's like 5 anthologies. So it's different. I've been talking to and collaborating with so many different authors and awesome people like Dr. Pamela. So that's mostly where the market for me right now.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell us now more of an understanding of how people can connect with you, and is there anything exciting on the horizon for you that we should be looking out for?
Well, to connect with me, I am on Facebook as Bernice Johnson, which is my personal, and also I have my author Bernice Johnson's page. Instagram also is author Bernice Johnson. My email is johnsonbernice829@gmail.com. And what's on the horizon for me? I just signed up for another. I just signed up for another anthology on last night, to be exact.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a faith walk anthology. That's actually based out of New York. And I'm also working on producing another solo project for myself, well, actually two other solo projects, because I also write poetry. So I have a little bit of a lot going on at once.
Yes.
That's about it that I can think of at the moment.
That's exciting. That's wonderful that you're continuing the how many anthologies?
I had to think about, because there's like 4 and I'm on my 5th one.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's only been a year.
Incredible. That's like, there's so many cornerstones. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are becoming a coach of sorts, right? And then that comes into personal branding, there is like a very fascinating pinwheel of assets that you should be creating to establish a really good coaching brand. This I've learned from other people, but it's books, which is incredible that you're doing. It's your own coaching program. It's your own event. It's also your whole marketing bracket of things. And then, of course, being able to be on a stage like this and presenting to others. So this is incredible that you're moving so quickly through the year. It's awesome. And still doing a full-time job, and you're going to transition, most likely. Is that a goal for you, to transition out?
Yes, I'm going to give it some time, but yes, my goal is to to transition out, because I want to do volunteer. So I do volunteering on the weekends to certain communities, certain, outlets, but I want to be able to be accessible when I really need to be accessible, because there's a lot of opportunities out there, because I just want to give back. I mean, like I just volunteered this past Saturday for kids that's having seizures. It was a butterfly release, and my sister, has seizures. So it's things that's true and near and dear to my heart. I just go out and try, just to be a part of the community, to show that I actually care and that somebody out there actually cares.
Yeah, and it's important. I feel like not many, that weird cold feeling that everyone's like giving off nowadays.
Yes.
It's so important to have a light like you in this world. So thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm really grateful that you have been here and you could impart such knowledge to not just like myself, mothers out there, dads, partner dads out there, all of that. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Please check out Bernice's links in the comments below. We're going to provide those for you, and we're excited to see how Bernice takes off in the next year. All right, closing out now. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.